Hey everybody, welcome back to the Jersey Comic Crew. And on today's episode, we are reviewing The Bad Batch, our review and reaction for episode 8. Come on inside.
What's up, everybody? We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and today we're talking Bad Batch Episode 8 Reunion. It's not a happy reunion. It's kind of a sad reunion. Now, guys, before we move forward, make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff that we need to keep making content for you guys. And, guys, yes, of course, this is your spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the events of the episode in detail with our review and reaction here. Right off the gate, we see Wrecker and Omega, under his wing again, learning to defuse a bomb. It's so sweet. I love the interplay. And maybe we're going to see Omega defuse a bomb down the line. Then it cuts directly to the Empire, and we see Admiral or whatever bad guy Rampage says, I don't care about Clone Force 99. Just kill
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. So we kind of got confirmation that, we're kind of getting out of this Clone War era, and he's, pushing for these recruits, these so-called top high-end recruits that we know are going to be stormtroopers. And Lama Su and Nala say, the Kaminoans are kind of like, well, that's not good for us because this isn't part of our plan. And they kind of have this other tactic where they're kind of talking about hey, let's try and get, the situation under control. Let's get Omega back if we can. And that is something that's a big deal because they're clearly announcing that Omega's needed for whatever their next stage of planning is, which we heard back in episode 3, right? We heard that, there's going to be a phase 3 of cloning. Rob and I discussed it a bunch. Definitely go check those videos out. And that's something that we kind of have confirmation of now. Omega is needed, 1, alive, and 2, she is the essential part of this kind of phase 3, which kind of reminds me, Rob, of kind of what they had to do with Grogu, where he was essential for whatever kind of background plots going on as well in Mandalorian.
So one thing I want to talk about right after this, it's so small, but the exchange with the Bad Batch and the Scrapper Guild, they take them down because the Scrapper Guild's keeping an eye on them. But the conversation between Hunter and I think Tech, right? Tech was like, we wouldn't have to deal with Scrappers if we went off of Rex. And Hunter was like, no, we need to stay here. He's on his own different path. We need to stay here, pay off our debt to Sid. And it kind of shows that, Hunter's a little bit more honorable than the others, I guess, maybe. But it's really brings up the question, Chris, do you think they should have stayed with Sid, pay off the debt, or should they have gone off on the adventure with Rex?
I think for the sake of storyline, they need to pay off the debt.
Yeah.
And I think Hunter's correct in that faction because, in that way, you don't need anything else on top of you, right? We know the Empire is already after you. You're the most famous clone force from the Clone Wars, right? You're the defectors that were brought in to kind of handle things that were unhandled, that couldn't be handled.
Yeah.
And you have this, Hulk character in Wrecker, who's the most lovable thing on the planet, basically pulling, ships down with his bare hands. And you can't just have these guys out and around making trouble for you when you're trying to basically build your new empire and business.
Yeah.
So to have kind of this underworld Sid person who we don't know how far her reach is, we don't know everything she's involved in, kind of on your tail as well. You don't need 2 of those things, right? So I think the smart play is let's figure out how to try and pay off Sid, which, they were talking about hey, let's get all the stuff that's left on this ship. That'd be more than enough. And then we can move on, whether that's with Rex and whatever Rex is doing or figuring out our own path in this new world.
Speaking about forging their own path, we cut back to Crosshair. He's sent to the Bad Batch to try to capture them out. And they have this great back and forth. The not clone troopers, the Empire troopers are surrounding Clone Force 99. And Tech is hacking to their comms. He thinks he gets a step ahead of them. And Crosshair's like, I know your tactics. And then they all get surrounded. And then it's this weird reunion, hence the name of the episode. But it's, it's heartbreaking because, they're still trying to talk to him. Omega's like, Crosshair, it's not you. You're not doing this. It's the chips. They got it out. It's not you. It's okay. And they focus fire on the kid, and it was definitely heartbreaking.
And this is also kind of why I like Crosshair as a bad guy, Rob, because I'm really on board with him just not turning back to good. I like that they just didn't get the inhibitor chip, they captured him and did the whole process for now a 3rd time since Clone Wars. And I like that he's going to be the bad one. I hope he stays evil because I think it adds a foil and it adds a level of, what soldiers deal with. They could have a arc of PTSD if they have to take out Crosshair and had this whole situation where it's like, if we only got to him in time, if we were only able to take the inhibitor chip out, if he was with us when Rex gave us the information, that whole thing becomes another kind of like emotional character build.
So for me, I understand that. And for story-wise, it does make sense to have him as the villain long-term. I like that. But as the audience, I'm still here, like, in the heart and minds of the Bad Batch, still rooting for them to be able to bring their friend back. So, like, yes, the little child in me that's looking at this small micro is like, yeah, like, I want him back as a friend. But overall, for the story and for the season, it's probably better that he stays the villain. But I'm still going to root for him to be back because I'm a mushy-gushy kind of guy.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you for that either. It's kind of a give and take. And with him, too, I also love that he kind of brought out the best in his, like, quote-unquote brothers, right? Like, they are just so good at what they do in their job. And that's something, you don't take for granted in this day and age, people being very good at their jobs. So, like, the fact that they are kind of navigating and trying to, it was almost like a chess match. Let's outmaneuver. And he's figuring out, no, I'm going to fake this because I know Tech's going to log in here and hack it. So let's fake it. I know where they're going to exit. And then they get to this ion port where, like, they're literally inside of the engine. And one of the great jokes was like, Omega's like, oh, I've never been in an ion engine, and Wrecker's kind of like, yeah, I don't know why you would ever be in an ion engine prior to this anyway.
Yeah, I'd be worried if you were in one before.
Yeah, like why would you be in one? And it's like this massive section. Obviously, it's where, like, the iron energy pops out and helps the ship thruster. And what's interesting in that sequence is they are literally between the proverbial rock and hard place, right? Crosshair's now got them in their sights. He's trying to pick them off as they come out. There's no other option, right? He's turning on the engines. They're slowly warming up. And thank God it's like a car from the 70s. It takes a while to get warm. And so, like, they are literally like, we're blowing the O-ring. We're going the O-ring, and we're just going to blow this up, and we're going to fall and deal with it. So what I liked about that situation is it was very similar in my mind to how NASA used to build their fuselages and their O-rings. Those were those massive, like, tanks that helped the shuttles lift off. Are kind of connected by these, like, heat-resistant rubber O-rings in sections. If you look closely, there's like 17 of those suckers all the way up, because it's a massive machine with a massive amount of pressure of thrusters, which is kind of the same thing in Star Wars, right? You're in this engine with these thrusters. It's a massive area, and obviously if it doesn't work, that's a huge problem. Unfortunately, that's what happened with the Challenger in the 80s. The O-rings burn through, but that's the same kind of principle that they're talking. So it's cool to see kind of sci-fi fiction add a little real science into it.
I did not know that. I did not know that you knew that, and it's really cool how those two things bridged.
Science, kids.
But back to the weird fun stuff, a lot of, like, cartoons, right? So Hunter and Omega are running back to the ship. They're expecting a big fight, right? And I'm like, all right, they have to take down a bunch of soldiers, and then boom, all the soldiers are dead or knocked out, whatever you want to call it in Star Wars, right? And I'm like, who is this? And then they're
dead. It's not Pokemon. It's they're dead. It's not KO.
And then we see this Wild West stranger come out, and it's Bane. Yes, not Bane from Batman with the juiced up venom. Cad Bane, the blue Western bounty hunter that we all love and enjoyed. Even if you watch only a minute of any other animated stuff from Clone Wars, you've seen him. And then him and Hunter have that Western shootout. And they're both shaking their hands at the side, and then they pull it. I just love that we see Cad Bane in here. He's a big character. More bounty hunters in this, and that kind of just shows the kind of connectivity that Star Wars has with all of its other properties, which is so fun.
Oh, it was great. It solidified a couple things in my mind. Number one, this is basically Clone Wars Season 8, if you throw Cad Bane in there. Cad Bane, if you don't know, he was one of the biggest bounty hunter threats in Clone Wars. He's fought Jedi. He's fought, other bounty hunters, Sith, all of them. And as you see, he's a really quick draw. Probably my favorite part of the episode, and I love this episode. I thought it was very high octane, cool stuff, different point of view stuff.
It's exactly what we needed, because I think we said last week, hey, we need an Empire focused episode, and we need them to combine. So I think we're perpetuating what's going to happen in the next episode.
Agreed, and they're clearly building towards that, like, season finale. And I loved it. The quick draw, the old Western style standoff. I was thinking Blazing Saddles. This is my shooting hand. And
me too. Oh my God.
I was like,
yes.
I was waiting for that when it was like down here, and I was
my shooting hand.
Yeah, so good. So that in the aspect of bringing back a beloved character who, like, there's no way anyone had him on the radar of coming back. Like, no. I'm sorry, I didn't. No one did. And love that he's back. Love that it's him specifically in this role, right? The best of the best versus the best of the best. And this also confirms the other side of things where we were talking about early, the Kaminoans, right? Lama Su, Nala Se, clearly hired him to get Omega back from them. So that's a big deal, and possibly means as well that they hired Fennec Shand early on, who failed at getting him.
What I think they did, because their conversation, they said they got one person for the job, and then the other one, I forget which one is which, but the other one says, hey, if one of the young bounty hunters do it, that's fine. So what I think they hired Cad Bane specifically, but then they also put a PBA out, or whatever, APB, for all the other young bounty hunters to kind of cut their teeth.
A BHB?
Yeah.
Bounty hunter, something.
To try to get in. So I think they wanted Cad Bane, and they're like, oh, if Cad Bane gets it, great. But if not, we have all these other little bounty hunters.
See, I'm on the business side of things. I think they went to Fennec Shand first because she was cheaper. She's new, she's young. Cad Bane's he's top of the line. He's way too expensive. And now it's necessary because you need her back immediately. And that's the price you're going to pay for the work that he's going to do. So, like, I think it just came down to, like, hey, we're on Kamino. Our business is struggling. Let's not pay. Let's see if someone could do it who isn't top tier. And they ended up doubling down on it. But
I did like the ending where, like, Hunter's, like, knocked out, passed out, and then like, he's getting dragged, and we see from his POV and a camera shaking, like, you see scratch marks, like every other first-person shooter. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was great. It was kind of like the old video game Republic Commandos, where you play as, like, a clone force during the Clone Wars, and it's an FPS, it's a first-person shooter. And I love that, too, because, like, even in Hunter's, like, you know, he's waking up, also, like, a very Iron Man, where his suit's coming back online.
Yeah.
He comes back online and he's kind of like, whoa, I don't even know what's going on. You see like Wrecker shooting and you see like it's kind of like a melee, and they get on board and they're like, where's Omega? And he's like, you know, she was taken, and he's messed up, right? Like, thank God he has, I'm sure, some type of augmented armor plating, because most clones will be dead if you shoot them in the chest because their armor is so cheap.
Yeah.
But I guess either their own kind of additions to it and upgrades,
I'm sure,
like, is the reason he's alive besides he's the main character. But yeah, great episode overall, man.
So before we go, we got to talk a little bit, like you said, about Omega, right? What do the Kaminoans want with Omega, and how do we get Omega back, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're both on the same page. They want Omega to take more of her DNA because it's something unique in there. The original tissue sample is failing or fading away. They can't use it anymore. And they're going to make clones off of her because she's so superior to them in ways we're going to find out maybe in the next episode or two. And how do the Bad Batch get back? I think they're going to team up with Rex and Cut and everybody else that they made friends with. Maybe even the Rancor, and just do a straight melee onto the Empire ship. I don't really see them doing a stealth mission unless somehow the double agent Crosshair theory that I had from last week comes true.
Interesting. So for the Omega question, I'm worried it's going to fall into the trap that we were talking about earlier with Grogu, where we already have a character that's being tested, Kamino's attached to it, right? Completely different time period, but it's still kind of relatable, right? Is Omega going to be someone they're like, hey, we need to test her midichlorian count? Or is Omega going to be a character where it's like, hey, we need this new tissue sample, which I do think is right, because as you said, and as we learned in the beginning of the season, Jango Fett's original tissue sample is degrading, right? There's not so much of it left. It can't produce as many clones as it used to. Whatever augmentation, I think we have to find out either in the next 2-ish episodes that Omega has, right? Because she's been taken now. She's going to go back to Kamino, presumably. And they're going to start kind of running tests on her. So I think we're going to figure that out, whether it's force sensitivity or like we were talking about, that kind of Taskmaster can duplicate stuff. We're going to figure that out. And then as far as how they're going to get her back, I think there's still 2 options on the table.
What are they?
Option A is, if they want to still keep it like very Bad Batch centric, it has to be a stealth mission that Crosshair won't see coming, right? It has to, because Crosshair's now really messed up too, right? He got a lot of the brunt of that blast from that ion engine.
Yeah.
And who knows how he's going to be put back together. That was a little Vader-esque too, right there.
Maybe they break the inhibitor chip and they don't know it. Because of that.
Maybe, but if let's say he's still a bad guy, right? And
if he's still a bad guy, okay.
What we have right now is he's still a bad guy. It has to be something that he doesn't see coming, right? You either have to do it from under the water because the planet's water, and kind of go through the bottom and grab her and bring her back down.
I like that.
And the other option is, basically half the Empire's kind of main forces are there right now. They're kind of operating out of this facility.
Yeah.
Is this where, like you said, call on Rex and he brings Ahsoka, and that's the season finale, right? Because you got to assume Rex is still doing something where he could talk to Ahsoka. I still think he was talking to Ahsoka on that comm. And is that where we see Ahsoka show up in her most adult form in this version of her in the Clone Wars art? You bring back Ashley Eckstein, she does the voice, and Ahsoka is here to help take Omega, and that finale is where we get the tease for next season, whether it's, oh, you brought a Jedi, bring in Vader or the Inquisitors for season 2.
Oh my God. I like that. Guys, we want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think is going to happen in the next episode of The Bad Batch? What do you guys think of this episode? Did you like it? Did you have fun with it? We want to know.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're brand new, subscribe and turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any more of our Bad Batch videos, our theories, our Easter eggs, our reviews. We're doing them every week for you guys. And as always, make sure to check us out on our social medias and other videos on the channel at Jersey Comic Crew. And I'm Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran. We are the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.